the Conrad and the Hilton Foundations. I now have the privilege to invite the panelists to come and have their seats as we prepare to listen to them. The first on my list is Sister Jane, who is the Associate Vice President of Program Operation and Head of Catholic Sisters, Conrad and Hilton Foundation. Sister Jane. Shall we welcome her with her? Give a good round of applause. Thank you. Today you are doing well. Continue clapping for her until she sits. Thank you. The next person is our own sister Nina. She's a deputy director of the Holy See Press Office, Dicastery for Communication. Shall we clap for her as she takes her seat? We also have our own brother, Dr. Peter Montien Vicenchai, who is the Secretary General of Signis World, to come and join the panelists here. I also have the privilege to invite Sister Adelaide to resume the other seat there. And the last but not the least is Pamela. Pamela, you are the next accused. So now listen to Sister Jane.
Yes. Good morning, my brothers and sisters. I'm delighted to be with you today as we dialogue and continue listening to each other. And this morning, I would like to focus on prophetic witness in storytelling and amplifying the voices of Catholic sisters in public square. I come from the Conrad N. Hilton Foundation, an organization that was established in 1944 by a faith-filled entrepreneur who started the Hilton hotels globally. And you will hear his story as I continue to weave it within this conversation. Over the past few days, we have explored how communication and media shape our lives and mission. Their challenges, opportunities, best practices, and implications for spiritual life, society, and the common good. I want to express gratitude to all the speakers for your insightful, focused dialogues that weave experiences and call us to be attentive to the gospel values. Our dialogue this morning focuses on two projects: the Pentecoste project implemented by the Dicastery for Communication. This project focuses on networks that trains and training for sisters and amplifying the voices of Catholic sisters. And the Wisdom Calls, a project implemented by Signis. I will let Sister Nina and Dr. Peter discuss these ins and outs of this project. Personally, I would like to reflect on a subject that is so close to my heart, not only as someone privileged to work to accompany Catholic sisters around the world through the Conrad N. Hilton Foundation, but also as someone who has witnessed the extraordinary power of stories to reveal God's presence in places where the world often sees only suffering. In my conversation this morning, I will focus on storytelling and amplifying the voices of Catholic sisters in the public square as a gospel imperative. Building off these 5 key points, I will be focusing on communication as God's relationship with humanity, communication as a bridge, communication to provide hope, and communication to center those in the margins, and communication as an act of love. I begin a communication as God's relationship with humanity. And we did hear this relationship across spectrums of various speakers. The title of our conversation today bears 2 important keywords: Pentecoste and wisdom calls. Wisdom calls contains a beautiful assumption, that wisdom has a voice. Perhaps the deeper question is whether anyone is listening. Wisdom anchors discernment. Good communicators discern both the message and its impact on those who hear that message. Jesus is our example, our authentic communicator. He remains our model, and his stories continue to light our way in the Gospels. From the beginning of Scripture, God chooses to reveal himself through communication. Creation itself begins with a spoken word. God said, "Let there be," and so it was. Later, the Gospel of John opens with those profound words: "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Each of us as communicators bear a powerful tool, and our tool is the Word. It could be art, it could be journalism, it could be any form of communication. Communication, therefore, is not simply the transmission of information. It is woven into God's relationship with humanity. It creates, reveals, calls, and gives life. 2 scriptural stories illustrate this fact. The angel greeted Mary and said, "You are the favored by the Lord. The Lord is with you." And that dialogue, that communication, changes the history of humankind. The news of the angel delivered to Mary was not easy, but it was easy because of the way the angel conveyed the message. Also, Mary's encounter with Elizabeth. As soon as Elizabeth hears Mary's greetings, the baby inside her jumps with joy. As communicators, those are the encounter. And how do we encounter others in our storytelling? This text illustrates the attitudes and dispositions in our communication and the feelings they evoke in recipients. I will now focus on communication as a bridge. On the other hand, at Pentecoste, as the previous person who read us in prayer, at Pentecoste, the Holy Spirit did not erase the difference of languages or cultures. To provide hope. At the Conrad N. Hilton Foundation, we are committed to improving the lives of people living in disadvantaged situations around the world, often supporting often by supporting those on the margins. Conrad, a layman who was faith-filled, said, "If the strength of our faith has made possible a degree of success, I can think of no greater God-given responsibility we have than that of extending a helping hand to our fellow humans." A very blessed man, but left everything of his wealth, 97%, to the foundation. And he says, charity is the supreme virtue through which the mercy of God reaches to humankind. That vision of Conrad continues to guide our work, including our support of Catholic sisters, whose presence in the most underserved communities brings not only material assistance, but also restores dignity, hope, opportunity, and pathway to self-sufficiencies. There is not a single country in Africa and in the world that the resources from the Conrad and Hilton Foundation has not touched. Stories from the margins should be told not from sensation, but to inspire hope, accompaniment, and life-giving action. I want to share with you a story that is disheartening, but also life-giving. I remember meeting a young woman whose life had been shaped by hardship from a very early age. She had been married at 13 to repay a small debt essentially sold into marriage for the equivalent of a few $100s. By 18, she had 3 children, and shortly thereafter, she was abandoned, left without support, without resources, and without a pathway forward. We talked about culture. That is a practice in our cultures, some of our cultures. When the Catholic sisters encountered this lady, she was in a fragile state, carrying not only the weight of her circumstances, but also the absence of possibility. They welcomed her, cared for her, and helped her to begin the long process of healing. We heard yesterday about trauma and the stories we can help these people to tell so that they can bring healing. And then, after accompanying her, they asked her a question that had never been posed to her before. What is your dream? It is a simple question, but for someone who has never been invited to have hope, to imagine of her own future, it is a profound one. Her answer was equally simple and yet deeply revealing. She said she wanted to become a beautician, not because she sought wealth or recognition, but because she wanted to make others feel beautiful. Even in the midst of her own suffering, her desire was directed outward, toward bringing joy to others. With the support of the sisters, she received training, began to build her life, and eventually established a small business. Today, she lives with dignity. Her children are in school, she has a home, and her future is no longer defined by her past. Her story is a reminder that hope is not something abstract or distant. It is something lived, something chosen, often in the very moment when we would be easiest to surrender to despair. And their stories, like this one, demonstrate the gospel lived and experienced through encounters of love, trust, hope, and courage by many of women religious who are serving in the margins. The stories we choose to tell matter. Too often, the public square is shaped primarily by stories of crisis, conflict, and failure. Communication from a Catholic perspective has an important responsibility to illuminate injustice, expose corruption, and give voice to those who suffer. We should never diminish that responsibility. But if those are the only stories we tell, we leave the world with an incomplete picture of our Catholic values. Our task is not to deny the darkness. Our task is to reveal the light and continues to shine within it. This is precisely where Catholic sisters have something unique to offer. Now I will focus communication to center those at the margin. The Pentecoste project started as an encounter, a dialogue, and fruits of this project are palpable globally. Centering voices of women religious serving in the margins of society, living at the core of the mission of Jesus, expressed in Gospel of Luke chapter 4, verse 18, to heal the brokenhearted, proclaim liberty to captives, recovery of sight to the blind, and setting the prisoners free. This is the vocation many women religious live every day, accompanying people in the margins where no one ever reaches there to tell their story. Around the world, sisters educate children who might otherwise never enter a classroom. They care for the sick where health systems have collapsed. They accompany migrants, refugees, and survivors of trafficking, and many others. They support women rebuilding their lives after violence. They remain present in communities affected by war, hunger, and natural disasters long after the cameras have disappeared. Yet, if we stop there, we misunderstand their vocation. Sisters do not simply provide services. They answer Christ's great commission to go and make disciples of every nation. Matthew 28, verse 19. Every classroom, every clinic, every counseling session, every visit to a refugee camp, and every act of accompaniment, I'm sorry. Extends far beyond the sisters themselves. It reaches thousands of lives through ministries that continue to grow and impact local communities. And yet, very few people know these stories. That is why Pentecost Project implemented by the Vatican's Dicastery for Communication and Wisdom Course. Yet, if we stop there, we misunderstand their vocation. Sisters do not simply provide services. They answer Christ's great commission to go and make disciples of all nations. Every classroom, every clinic, every counseling session, every visit to a refugee camp, every act of accompaniment is ultimately an expression of the gospel. The witness proclaims Christ not only through words, but through lives poured out in love and service. The social impact is extraordinary, but spiritual witness is even greater. The sisters remain after everyone else has gone home because Christ remains. They stay because the gospel does not abandon people when emergencies fade from public attention. They continue working with communities because God's love is not seasonal nor dependent on media attention. Their perseverance becomes a living proclamation that every person possesses a dignity as a child of God. This is why I often say that humility should never become invisibility. Catholic sisters have never sought recognition. Their vocation calls to humility, not the spotlight. Yet when their stories remain untold, the public square becomes poorer. Not because sisters seek attention, but because the world loses witnesses of compassion and hope precisely where is most needed. Pope Leo XIV recently reminded communicators that we need faces and voices to speak to people again. That invitation resonates deeply with the vocation of Catholic sisters. Their lives give a human face to the gospel, and their voice reminds us that behind every statistic is a person created in the image of God. Our responsibility as communicators is not simply to tell stories, but to ensure that these faces and voices are neither forgotten nor repressed by narratives that overlook the quiet work of God's presence. Our experience continues to remind me why storytelling matters. Several years ago, I had the privilege of supporting the African Sisters of Education Collaborative, an initiative that strengthened educational opportunities for Catholic sisters in more than 10 countries across Africa, through partnerships with over 26 colleges and universities across Africa. At first, some questioned whether such an ambitious vision could succeed. The distances were great, the resources limited, and the challenges significant. Just like someone said that communication needs resources, and sometimes those resources lack. Yet, the investment was never simply about educating individual sisters. It was about strengthening the women who would go to educate children, manage hospitals, lead schools, accompany vulnerable families, conduct research, advocate for justice, and build stronger communities. Today, the impact of the investment extends far beyond the sisters themselves. It reaches thousands of lives through ministries that continue to grow and impact local communities. And yet, very few people know these stories. That is why Pentecoste projects implemented by the Vatican's Dicastery for Communication and Wisdom Course implemented by Signis are so important. They remind us that communication is itself a ministry. When we amplify authentic voices, we build bridges with communities. When we tell stories responsibly and truthfully, we cultivate solidarity. When we allow those living on the margins to speak for themselves, we restore dignity and challenge the assumptions that often shape public discourse. At the Conrad N. Hilton Foundation, our partnership with the Dicastery for Communication, for example, reflects this conviction. We believe that telling stories of Catholic sisters and the people they serve is not simply about documenting successful programs. It is about revealing how faith continues to transform lives every day through quiet acts of fidelity that rarely make the evening news.
If you're wondering why Sister Jane has to talk for long, it is because she
at the
is
foundation,
a principal speaker.
Conrad
The others have promised me that they will not do more than 10 minutes, so don't worry.
Love one another, for that
Krapich
is the whole love.
Talk to us,
the peoples of the world deserve to be loved. never to be left to wander alone in poverty and darkness. This verse reminds us that poverty is not only material. There is also the poverty of invisibility, when entire communities and those who faithfully serve them remain unseen by the wider world.
Good morning.
Storytelling becomes an act of love when it refuses to leave people in that darkness. It becomes an act of justice when it gives voice to those who are rarely heard. And it becomes an act of evangelization when it helps others encounter Christ through the witnesses of his disciples. As communicators, we are therefore called to be more than reporting events. We are called to discern where the Holy Spirit is already at work. We are called to recognize wisdom where the world sees only obscurity. We are called to amplify voices that reveal not only human resilience, but God's enduring presence among his people. Pentecoste reminds us that the Holy Spirit made understanding possible across every language and culture. Our responsibility today is to continue that work, not by speaking louder, but by listening more deeply, telling stories more faithfully, and ensuring that quiet voices of those who live the gospel every day are heard clearly in the public square. And they act as a catalyst for transformation, embracing those who suffer, shifting the narrative about people experiencing disadvantage, and engaging others to take action and break down barriers to address this difficult situation. It is because when their stories are heard, the church is better understood. When their witness is seen, Christ becomes more visible. And when Christ becomes more visible, hope becomes contagious. It is my prayer that in our communication, that the stories we choose to tell, we can carry forward love, faith, hope, and courage as true disciples who work for the common good. And each of us is calling that right. Let's pass that right forward so that it burns and burns brightly, so that even those who are living in darkness can see the light through our storytelling. God bless you.
Media coverage often focuses on what is entertaining, as Sister Jane already said, unusual stories, scandals, conflicts, or more recently, sisters.
Thank you, Sister Jane Wakahiu, for these words.
Of recent stories which are hybrid. So what becomes
we thank you for reminding us that Jesus is our example when it comes to authentic communication.
You can find
for your network, for the work you do, being the source of hope for the marginalized, and also for promoting the dignity of humanity, particularly women, for all that you have brought to those you have encountered, how your social presence is extraordinary, but your spiritual impact is enduring. Communication is a ministry, and the charge is that we should love one another. Shall we clap for her once again? If you are wondering why Sister Jane has to talk for long, it is because she is a principal speaker. The others have promised me that they will not do more than 10 minutes, so don't worry. May I now invite Sister Nina Krapich to talk to us. Sister Nina.
How rich our life really
is. Please.
Truly make a change if we communicate it the way it is. Catholic sisters are the pillars of Catholic Church, and they're the pillars of society itself. I think only in Rwanda there's
Good morning.
About 4,000.
I hope you can see my presentation, or you should see.
In Rwanda. Okay. Yep. If sisters
good morning once more, everyone. I'm really happy to be here and to present the Pentecoste project that is already presented
in terms of stories
short by Sister Jane.
That can be told.
So, without knowing that Sister Jane had quoted the same sentence
in a single congregation in the world.
I chose the sentence from Pope Leo's message for the 60th World Day of Social Communications because when I read it the first time, I said, okay, this is the sentence that could explain very well the intention behind this project that we have. We need faces and voices to speak for people again. Why? Because the current media environment is flooded with AI-generated content. It's flooded with hyper-production of content. Misinformation, disinformation, all leading to news avoidance and growing distrust in media, a lack of stories. We live in a time where we have crisis of narration, crisis of the lack of stories. Human stories that unites us around what bonds us together rather than what separates us. We need inspirational, educational stories that underline our shared humanity, that show us what our common ground is. They hear questions about life. And to tell the human stories, you need to know the human stories. And that's why we would need a very good investigative journalism on someone who really knows people well. And those stories are in the hands, in the hearts and minds of Catholic sisters. But to understand why is it even important to talk about the communication of Catholic sisters and why is it important to work on it, we first need to look at two realities. So first is the representation of Catholic sisters, how are they seen in the mainstream media, and the self-presentation of Catholic sisters. And the truth is that neither of these two works well. Why? Because the public narrative about Catholic sisters is still largely trapped within entertainment. And together as a global community, mainstream media, in many ways, has handed over the story of sisters to popular culture. So films such as Sisters Act or Horrors as The Nun had shaped the collective imagination and has shaped the image of Catholic sisters. Media coverage often focuses on what is entertaining, as Sister Jane already said, unusual stories, scandals, conflicts, or more recently, sisters influencers. So we have most of recent stories which are hybrid. So what becomes viral in social media gets covered by the mainstream media. And only occasionally you can find a story about what sisters really do and the extraordinary work that they do all over the world. And what about our self-presentation? So unfortunately, we sisters often reproduce the same pattern. So the most viral accounts of Catholic sisters frequently show the same entertaining discourse. So we have millions of people who have seen dances and songs and games of Catholic sisters. And there's nothing inherently wrong with playing or singing. But if this becomes the dominant narrative, we have a problem. And we should ask ourselves important questions. And that is, why are we afraid to show our real life the way it really is? And do we selves believe how rich our life really is and that it can truly make a change if we communicate it the way it is? Because when sisters begin to tell their stories, Catholic sisters are the pillars of Catholic Church, and they're the pillars of society itself. I think only in Rwanda there's about 4,000, if I'm right, Sister Jane? 4,000 Catholic sisters in Rwanda. It really is. If sisters stopped working for just 24 hours, many communities in the world would experience a serious social and spiritual crisis. In terms of stories and experiences that can be told, let's imagine what happens in just 24 hours in a single congregation in the world. So we have sisters working in hospitals, working in hospices, accompanying people in their final hours. We have sisters teaching in schools and universities, some working in urban slums, some educate fathers in remote villages on parenting, other accompany migrants and refugees, other work every day to prevent human trafficking. Some collaborate with governments and international institutions, some advocate for human dignity all the way to United Nations. Sisters are everywhere. And I would dare to say that religious life represents one of the most extraordinary human networks in the world. And what do these sisters hear? What comes to them in 24 hours in just one congregation? Well, they hear the deepest questions that humanity asks, and they accompany them in finding those answers. And this is what the church had done since it became. They hear questions about life, forming a family, education, how to discover one's vocation, questions about how to build healthy families, how to build a strong community, questions of elderly, their caregivers, sick and their families. They hear stories of persecution, migration, addiction, reconciliation, loneliness, and hope. They accompany people searching for meaning, searching for freedom, facing hard decisions, mourning losses, and rebuilding their lives. And imagine the conversation that these women experience every day. And imagine the experiences one congregation has just in one day. Sisters have direct access to the real questions of humanity. And together as a global community and part of the church, they also carry an extraordinary wealth of experience in responding to those questions. We have incredible theologians, doctors, nurses, professors. Now imagine unique perspective that sisters have. For a sister, a refugee is not a distant news story. It is someone she accompanies until they stand on their own 2 feet and knows all about why they left, how's their family back home, how was the path, what are their dreams, what are their fears, and she knows how to help them in a practical way. The margins are not somewhere far away. They are in the center of life of every Catholic sister. And this gives sister a perspective that is profoundly different from anything you're going to read in the mainstream media. And we cannot reduce this reality to communicating dances. We cannot reduce it to a decorative role in the church. And we cannot decide to keep these stories for our own personal memory. Communicating reality that we live is not secondary to our mission, it is a central part of our mission. And above all, we communicate because we want to tell the story of God's love for the world. And that is exactly the vision behind this project. Not simply to teach the sisters about communication, but to help the church to discover the immense wealth that it already possesses in the Catholic sisters. Because when sisters begin to tell their stories, they do not only change the perception of religious life, they're changing the perception of margins. They're shifting the dominant narratives that often are the cause of marginalization, because without language, no one will move from the margins. They change perception of the church. They inspire. They're bringing something new and good into the media environment. And they offer the world something that it desperately needs, a perspective born from experience of self-giving and proximity to others. This project has 3 pillars. It consists in training and learning by doing. So in Vatican Media, every week we publish a story which is written by Catholic sisters and translated in 10 different languages. And we train sisters in communications, in online courses, and by providing 3 months internships in Vatican Media. And also every sister has a free subscription to L'Osservatore Romano, which is daily newspaper of the Vatican. So what we learned in these years with the project is that we understood that for creating a network of sisters, communicators, networking is extremely important. So putting together the sisters who meet in person and collaborate, connect them across congregations, across nations and cultures. And in different events and training, we connect them also to experts from different types of backgrounds to create conditions to collaborate with sisters. We understood that also formation needs to be super, super high quality. And that we need to provide a storytelling platform that will make possible that even hyper-local stories from every corner of the world can reach the global news site. And first few words about networking. So as you see, we like putting sisters together. This was during last year's Jubilee for Communications, where we gathered sisters who are active in communications and experts from all around the world to discuss about communications. We have heard incredible stories from sisters and what they do. Like Sister Norma, who works with migrants, especially with children in Mexican-US border, Sister Rosemary, who's literally saving the lives of young girls. Sister gather in events we organize. They gather for online webinars, for trainings. They listen to really high recognized experts from all around the world. We have here Sister Abby meeting Maria Ressa, Nobel Prize winning journalist from the Philippines. And even these days, we have gathered different sisters here and put together a media team. So they're here in the first row covering this event for the Vatican media with videos and articles and creating social media content. So trainings are fundamental for our project. Every year we have 3 months online trainings, and hundreds of sisters have been through the trainings. Every training course has about 100 sisters participants with all the parts of the world present. They're trained by renowned media professionals and professors, and they were trained in social media management, participatory journalism, institutional communication, and much more. So they learn how to write journalistic pieces, but what we focused on last 2 years is participatory journalism. So not to write about what we do, but to write about the margins while co-producing with the margins. So to give the stage to the marginalized communities to tell their stories with their own words and to be presented the way they want to be presented in the global media. And during the training, they usually work in groups, so they get to know each other, and that is how they create connections all over the continents. We now have over 260 alumni of the project. And this is the Padlet map of our last training course. So these are the places where sisters came from. So they were everywhere, from Siberia to Brazil to many African countries. And I wanted to show some feedbacks that we got. First, which I think is very important, one that we got from a sister who's in charge for institutional communication of her congregation. We understood that there's many sisters who get the roles to communicate for their congregations, but they feel as if they don't have enough tools to do it. They don't have enough support. So we always make sure that in trainings we cover basics of communication, strategic communication, institutional part of communication. So they feel empowered when they communicate on behalf of their congregation. And the second feedback is from Chris, and Chris was one of our teachers. In training sisters, we work with very broad spectrum of experts, journalists, filmmakers from all types of backgrounds. And in teaching participatory journalism, we collaborate with a London-based media company that produces documentaries for big media outlets as BBC, and they're really passionate about documentaries about human trafficking. So it's been really super enthusiastic when they got to meet each other, and they understood for the first time that there was a network of sisters all around the world in more than 100 countries working in preventing human trafficking. So in these types of collaboration, in bringing people from different environments, experts from different environments, we see that it's a win-win situation, because not only that the sisters learn, but media learn, filmmakers learn. They all have something to learn and collaborate in communications. And we recently received this mail, which I think talks a lot about the project. So it is a mail by a sister who was our participant in our program. And she says, "I want to thank you for your work in organizing and conducting our course. It was very important and useful time for me. I have a degree in journalism, but this course revealed a different ideal of journalism for me. I saw the ideal of journalism which I wanted to strive for in my service in the church and in my congregation. It was very important for me to hear the words that through journalism, you can show the action of God's mercy in the world. Those words touch my soul deeply. As you guess, journalism in my country is far from the ideal. For the past few years, journalism in my country has served a dictatorship. She comes from a really complicated political situation. Most of the journalism here is propaganda of violence. I want to be another voice in this noise of propaganda. Your words and examples really straightened me, thank you. I also want to share my joy with you. Our meeting at Pentecoste project inspired me to start a journalistic project in our diocese. I prepared, with the help of another sister, the first issue of magazine for sisters from our diocese. The first issue of the magazine was released a month ago digitally. Our course was an inspiration for me to realize this project. So this is something that we did not see for the first time. It's a reawakening of the passion to communicate, to create videos, movies, articles. And it's not the first time that we see other projects being born as a product of this project. And there's been numerous initiatives in congregations and by different sisters. So as I said, we have 3 months internship in the Vatican Media. Every year we choose 12 best candidates from the online course, and they come and stay at the Vatican Media. So during the internship, they work in their language section. Since we operate in more than 50 languages, they can work in all of these languages. They're working with the journalists of Vatican News, learning how to be in the newsroom, how to write up articles, how to conduct interviews, how to create multimedia content, and they see all the technological part of the production. And as I said, they create very valuable connections in the group and friendships and find partners to collaborate. These are just some of the stories that we have published recently. So we have diverse stories as advocate from Kenya, sisters who are working in health sector, sisters who are empowering Maasai girls, sisters who work with refugees, who work with fishers, incredible stories about Sister Rosemary in Uganda, sisters in Malawi, sisters who are opening schools in Kenya, sisters who serve in South Sudan, which is very important for us because in this diversity, a very special type of stories comes from sisters who are in war zones because they're active, and sisters decide to remain with the people during the war. So stories that we get from Ukraine and different war zones from Middle East from sisters are very exceptional because they have a perspective that, as I said, you cannot read in any other media. And besides the war zones, there are also sisters in catastrophes and crises all around the world, like now in earthquakes in Venezuela. Floods, earthquakes, they remain, whatever happens, they remain, and they can communicate what is really happening with the people there. How can we help? How can we prevent? They have enormous treasure of knowledge that they can share. And these stories are read in millions of readers, and they keep on growing, which shows us that these stories are very attractive, and we need to invest more in training of sisters, journalists and professional communicators and experts who can, with a particular sensitivity to religious life, report what our sisters are doing in every corner of the world. There are so many stories, so it would be very hard to mention all of them. But what we saw is that these stories are mobilizing because only with voices and faces we can truly communicate God's love, and we can create relationships. Mobilizing, in sense, when we publish something about sisters, we, or people who wrote it, get messages from different parts of the world of people who want to help. So there was one written by Sister Michelle, who is here, about a water pump missing. I think it was in Kenya, and a couple of weeks later, they got a water pump. So we really see how these stories change hearts and mobilize people all around the world. So with this project, we're going towards long-term systematic changes, and we're trying to empower sisters to change the narrative and perceptions about the marginalized communities, but also about the Catholic sisters. We train them to start changes in the marginalized communities that they can then help with communication, because as I said, without communication, without changing the language, no one can get out from the margins. We are striving to provide the global platform so we can increase the influence and amplify the social change in narrative shifting movements. We are raising awareness to train sisters, so to position sisters as highly skilled experts and professionals in civil society and media environment, because there's no reason why sisters would not be interlocutors for any serious institution and media in the world, because they're absolutely everywhere. We're training them and connecting them to enhance the levels of collaboration with other church and civil and media organizations. And we're looking forward to increasing the numbers of sisters as representatives in leading and change-making positions in the church and civil society, because they really did deserve that. Thank you.
How I wish we would spend the whole day listening to our sisters. Are they not doing such a wonderful job? If they are doing such a wonderful job, what shall we do? Let us clap for them. Thank you, Sister Nina Krapich, for letting us feel and understand the practical aspect of the Pentecoste project. Our sisters are the pillars of the Catholic Church. They are the ones telling the human stories. And they are the ones telling the whole world that God loves everybody. Shall we clap for them once again? He has chosen to be the blessed man among women. And so I'll now call on my brother Peter Montier-Vicenshai to speak to us.
Good morning, Muraho. It's a real pleasure being here in Rwanda with you all. It's a special privilege indeed that I'm able to be here to talk about Wisdom Calls. But before I do, I must say a big thank you to Sister Jane Wakahu, without whose trust we would not even have been able to start the first steps of this project. I would also like to thank Sister Nina Krapich, whose mentoring, guidance, and kind accompaniment has made myself personally take on this monumental project together with my fellow Signis members. Grazie mille. At the danger of pointing out the obvious, I'm not a religious sister. Thank you, Father Coffey. But I've been privileged to have met them. The sisters that I've met, they've left their home, they've left their families. Many have left their countries to be among the poor, to be with the people of God. Through this project, I have also discovered that they walk the streets among children, very vulnerable, abused children. I've discovered that they climb mountains to feed refugees. I'm not a good Catholic by any means. So a lot of what I discovered are things that are completely opposite of what I had learned from mainstream media about religious sisters. So there are some foundations, I guess, perhaps challenges. I think pain points is probably the most accurate one, where wisdom calls emerged from. Firstly, the ordinary days as religious sisters. Your ordinary days are extraordinary to me. And I'm sure for many others, not just Catholics, but also many non-Catholics who have yet to discover what differences religious sisters make, how they make those differences, and to the lives of those most in need. They too will find your lives extraordinary. Second pain point, challenges. Sister Nina Krapic has already mentioned the situation in mainstream media, especially in the West. They've often underrepresented, misrepresented, and in the worst case, malrepresented the lives of religious sisters. Such media have often trivialized aspects of religious sisters' lives and pay little attention to the radical choices and commitments that they have made, and many of which I've been privileged to witness personally. Thirdly, at Signis, we believe that by taking the synodal journey together, religious sisters and our members who work in and with secular media around the world, the stories of the sisters' mission and challenges that they face, the ongoing struggles and the successes can be told to those outside of the usual Catholic media audience, to those who most likely do not read Vatican media, Vatican news, or the Global Sisters Report. I and my fellow members at Signis firmly believe that the sisters' stories and the wisdoms of their mission will inspire those outside the church, lead them to discover perhaps that what they do and what they outside the church consider the most important in their lives, in fact, intersect with those of the missions of religious sisters. That it is worth finding out more, and maybe, just maybe, that they will hear the calling from such wisdoms. Maybe they would want to join in meeting these challenges, maybe the ongoing struggles, and maybe share in the fulfillment of these missions. So, to complement the Pentecoste project, Wisdom Calls focuses on getting these stories out on secular media, on local media, on national and regional media, to find out, to discover globally, what will it take to have the stories of the sisters told in Good Morning TV, told in the evening news, with just as much importance as some billionaire making some statements. Most especially, I'm really privileged that the Sisters of Wisdom Calls, for the first time, they've given their time and made, for many of them, very long journeys to be here with us today in Kigali. So it is absolutely my privilege, and that is a word I don't use that often, to invite you all to listen to their stories at this plenary this morning from Sister Adelaide Ndilu, but also come to hear more in the breakout session this afternoon, because while this project calls on Signis, Signis alone cannot succeed. So, Sister Adelaide Ndilu. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone in the room. Are you good? I'm very happy and extremely excited to stand here. First of all, my name is Sister Adelaide Ndilu, and I am the project coordinator of Signis Wisdom Calls. And my simple task is to connect sisters with the secular media to be able to tell their stories. And so far, what we've been able to do, I'm speaking from the African context. We've been able to get sisters from around Africa, a few selected countries from around Africa. And we had our first meeting in Kenya, Mombasa. And it was all about telling them capacity building of how they can tell their stories. And this time, not so much with the church media, but with secular media. We believe that somehow, to a certain extent, followers of church media or audience of church media somehow know what the sisters do. But when we come to secular media, we ask ourselves, do they know exactly what the sisters do? I had prepared a speech here, and because much has been said, my colleagues here allow me to show you videos of sisters and what they do covered by the secular media. And the first one is by Sister Caroline Gatia. She's here with us, how she deals with street children known as Dorothea Rescue Center.
Now, the following story is a story that's very close to my heart because I actually got to spend time with these children. And if you're a parent or you've interacted with children, you do know, and of course this is common knowledge, that children are children and they should just be allowed to be that. Now, Nairobi street children, often labeled chokora, are easily recognized by their sacks slung over their backs as they sift through trash or weave between cars, hands outstretched for spare change. Among them are girls disguised as boys for protection. Tonight, we delve into the heartbreaking reality of these forgotten daughters battling hunger, fear, and unimaginable dangers. At Dorothea Rescue Center in Tala, they find refuge, healing, and a chance to reclaim their stolen childhoods. Join us as we uncover their journey from survival to renewal and the heroes making it possible.
Part of the chaotic streets of Nairobi and other adjacent cities, young girls, some as young as 4, scavenge through overflowing dustbins in search of scraps of discarded food. The usually frail street children clutch small bottles of glue, inhaling the thick toxic substance that helps numb their trauma and disguise their hunger. They bear the ravages of the weather, from the scalding hot sun during the day to the biting cold of the night, their small bodies enduring the extremes without mercy. In these very same streets, fate in the form of sisters from Our Lady of Assumption Dorothea Rescue Center intervene. With gentle hands and open hearts, they continue to pull these children from the cold, unforgiving streets into a sanctuary that offers safety and care. These are the lived experiences of girls who have lived on the streets of Nairobi and beyond.
Kenye mimi nilifanya nitoke kwetu ni kitu moja, vile tulikuwa tunaishi kwetu, mamangu na babangu walikosana. Mamangu akaolewa na baba wa kambo. Babangu akakuwa wazimu, akapelekwa Kenyatta. Baba wa kambo, mimi vile kama tuseme kwa mfano, sijua kuna kitu inaniingilianga na toroka kwetu. Nikishatoroka tuseme kwa mfano, leo nikitoroka mamangu alikuwa ananifunga. Mamangu nikirudi nyumbani ananifunga na nyororo. Na nikaanza kutoroka kwetu. Nikaanza kukaa base. Vile nakaa base, nikaanza base ya Tao Tomboya. Vile nilikaa base, nilikuwa nalala kwa gunia. Nikiamka asubuhi napigwa na mapolisi. nilikuwa nateswa.
Mimi story yangu nilizaliwa kwa street na nikalelewa kwa street. Nilitoka Beza Tomboya street na nilikuwa na duru. Kuduru ni kubeg, ile yenye unakaribia mtu unamwambia brother nisaidia at least na kakumi ninunue chakula. Ama sometimes unaenda unauza switi kwa jam. It was a very hard life. Kwanza kama wewe msichana you face some challenges like kama wewe una hiyo protection unakaa tu hivyo. Sometimes ilikuwa unaona chakula kushibishi, kuna ile utama ya kuninio drug. Kuna yenye tulikuwa tunatumia sana iko common inaitwa msi ni yenye iko wanakupimia kwa chupa alafu unaweka kwa kitamba alafu una inhale. Ukitumia huko una feel njaa sana.
Siku mamangu alinifukuza kwa nyumba akaninyima chakula, nikaokota kwa matakataka chakula.
The stories told by the children are heart-wrenching.
My mother died, my father left, and I am just staying with my grandmother. My grandmother, she's not stable. You see, I used to have a lot of pain inside me. I just decided to run away from my family. I went to the street. I used not to stay with people. I was just rude, bad. I paid a bus from Nairobi, Dandora, to Machakos. And that time, I'm a kid. I don't supposed to be alone in a bus. I was taken to a police station and I slept in a jail for one good week.
Each one a painful testament to the weight of the trauma they have lived through.
Bezi ni maisha mbaya sana. Hakuna blanketi, hakuna chakula. Chakula tunaenda tunarokota dustbin. Chakula yenye watu wamebakisha tunachukua tunakula. Kwa maana sasa hadi tumbo inatuma. Tulikuwa tunalala kwa gunia hadi mvua ikinyesha inatunyeshea. Tulikuwa tunajifunika na blanketi yetu, tulikuwa tunaita gunia.
Ukiingia ulale hapo ndani, sometimes polisi wanakuja, wanakuni street, wanakupiga, wanawafukuza.
Yet there is a glimmer of hope in their words.
Nilikuwa nasoma na nilikuwa kwa mtihani number 1.
I hope to join Alliance Girls, and on my career STEM, I choose a doctor. Hope to join that school. It is from my heart.
A longing for love, for safety, for the simple joy of being a child again.
I would like to tell them that they be close to their kids first, and they learn how to talk to their kids. They know what is disturbing them, because for me, even it's not like we are lacking anything that much, but I just ran away because I had no one to talk to me, no one to hear me. I would like to tell them that they be close to their kids first, and they learn how to talk to their kids. They know what is disturbing them, because for me, even it's not like we are lacking anything that much, but I just ran away because I had no one to talk to me, no one to hear me.
At Dorothea Rescue Center, the children undergo rehabilitation during the first few months.
Life in Dorothea starts from the streets. We go to the streets, we visit them like three times in a week, and then we bond with these children, we bond with the girls, and they know us, and then from there, we bring them here. So the first day is shaving, showering, because some of them maybe they have lice in the head, they are very dirty. And then there is now the detachment from street to now rehabilitation. So that action is very important. So we lit the fire, and then they take their clothes and burn them to say that now they are detaching themselves from the street life to new life here in Dorothea. Sometimes girls disguise themselves to look like boys. They would dress like boys because of what and the torture they go through on the streets. It's a little tough on them. What they do, they sleep like 5 girls inside one sack to protect each other because of the abuses that are happening on the streets.
The girls follow a detoxification protocol to recover from the substances they consumed on the streets.
Most of these children have been using drugs on the streets. So they use jet fuel, they use gum, they use cocaine, They even use banging on the streets. So they are already intoxicated. So after 21 days, now we go home to do home tracing because we must get consent, we must look for their parents for them to allow them to be here. And then we also start informal learning meaning to start introducing them back now to studying. So they stay here for 3 months to 6 months, depending with each case. After that now, we enroll them now to the mainstream schools and we pay for their school fees. And currently we have 43 girls that are in boarding schools. We have 15 that are in day school, and now we have the 10 girls just we rescued 2 weeks ago.
The center provides them with a safe shelter, education, healthcare, and vocational training to ensure their economic independence. After that, they are reintegrated to the society through home placement, boarding schools, or networking with other programs.
When you rescue a girl child, it's a total transformation, 100% transformation. There is no relapse.
The Dorothea Rescue Center has launched agricultural initiatives to cover operational costs. Dorothea Rescue Center, in partnership with Windsor Golf and Country Club, will hold a charity golf tournament on Friday, the 28th of March 2025, to raise funds in support of street girls' education and the construction of hostels. You are invited to buy a plate and save a street girl.
Now, the following story is a story that's very close to my heart because...
Thank you very much. So, as we have seen, sisters are on the front lines doing what they know best: healing, educating. They accompany the poor. They defend human dignity. They are storytellers of mercy, but too often their stories are told about them, not by them. And now I would want us also to watch another story by Sister Teresa. And as we watch that, it was covered by a secular media also in Kenya. I will call her here to come and tell us the challenges that she has as we watch the story by Sister Teresa. Okay, I'm being told time is not on our side, and probably we can post the clip to our social media and we'll be able to watch. Meanwhile, Sister works in Samburu, northern Kenya. The people in Samburu say they are not in Kenya because it's a very difficult area and she has challenges that she'll be able to share with us. Sister, you have only 2 minutes so that I'll be able also to invite Pam to talk to us. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sister Teresa, as you have heard. The Sisters of Mary Immaculate of Nyeri, currently doing Christ Mission in northern part of Kenya, that is Samburu County. What we are doing there, maybe if I can be brief on what we do there, and giving my story, is that Samburu County is so much rooted in culture, and therefore, rooted in culture is not bad. However, the culture, they have harmful cultural practices there. Some of these harmful cultural practices are bidding, FGM, forced child marriage, and gender-based violence. Maybe to talk briefly, bidding is a way of maybe a girl child is booked only for sex. You are a girl child of age of 7 to 8 years. It's a culture that dictates that child can be booked or rather engaged for sex alone. And this is done by Morans. Morans are the warrior in that society. I know those who are aware, know about Samburu County, you can follow me and you can see that is exactly what happens. So these girls, when they reach 8 years, then they are passed through the stage of bidding, that is being exposed to sex alone. Then they go to another stage of FGM. They are done the cut. They are done female genital mutilation. And this is done at the age of 9 or 10. Then from that age, the girl is forcibly given out for marriage. And this is done by the parents, by the way, because the girl has no power to select or to choose the suitor. But the parents themselves do that. The community themselves do that. However, when the sisters were sent in that community, we felt we cannot sit on the fence and watch the rights of the children, the dignity of human beings being violated. And therefore, the sisters there, we took the opportunity, we risked, and told these children, if it happens to you, can you come and see us? So we started seeing girls coming in. Sisters have been given off for marriage, and then have decided to run. And so that's how we started the rescue center, whereby currently, the rescue center, as we talk, I have 103 girls who are inside the center, giving them protection and safeguarding, and also empowering them. Then, intending to reintegrate them back to the community. The most challenge we have is reintegration, or rather, though, even if there are other challenges in between, especially sustaining them, the process of maybe rescuing them, of which we, the sisters, are not the ones who are directly rescuing them, but good thing we have cooperated with the government, so the government do the rescue work through police officers, the chief, even themselves, the girls themselves sometimes do rescue themselves. They run away from the so-called marriage life. So they run away and come to us. So when they come to us, we start the procedure of now doing the legal way of taking them to the court, of course, so that we can be given court committal order to stay with these girls. After they come, remember, these girls are rescued sometimes when they have flesh wounds because of the cut. So this cut, we must take the responsibility of knowing how to go through the process of taking them to the hospital, healing, taking them, also traumatized, not only physical cut, or rather not only physical pain, but also psychological pain. So that is what we do. The most challenge we have, maybe with my 2 minutes is almost over, my 2 minutes is almost over, is reintegration. Today, our government is dictating we reintegrate back the children to the community, to the society, of which it has never been possible. We have tried to mobilize the community to create the awareness. Like last year in December, I traced 30 families wanting to reintegrate back their children to the community through the help of police officers and chiefs. However, it was not possible. When they went back, when they went home, they came back after 2 weeks, all of them pregnant. Simply because at least the girls of 13 years, 12 years, 15 years below. So they came, not all of us, all of them, but 10 of them came pregnant out of 30. So even today I have them, I'm hosting them, and for sure they are supposed to give birth this month or next month. Yet their families are not ready to receive them back again. So it becomes a challenge. However, through the support of Hilton Foundation, we have come up with a network we call Nuru Sisters Network, which we get help and through Sister Jane, who is here with us, Nuru Sisters Network of 7 congregations who do such work. And so through that, we are able to mobilize the community, create awareness, and that has become more maybe easier for us to start creating that bond between a child and the parents. The story is too much, but I know my time is up. Maybe we can talk later, maybe outside there, if you want to know more about what we do in Samburu County. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Teresa. As I indicated earlier, we needed a whole day to listen to these sisters of ours, but we still have the opportunity to engage them even if we go out. May we now listen to the last person, Pamela Aleman.
Buenos dias. Good morning. I am delighted to share with you very quickly our experience in Wisdom Calls Latin America. A psychologist accompanying grieving families in the mining communities of the Bolivian Andes. An IT professional empowering girls from marginalized communities with digital skills that are opening doors to education and opportunity. A therapist leading support groups for madres buscadoras, or searching mothers, looking for their disappeared children in Mexico. These are just 3 out of 11 stories from the extraordinary, courageous, and brave women that I had the honor to accompany during the Latin American edition of Wisdom Calls. I get very excited, as you can see. For 3 whole days, I had the privilege of being in a room with 11 remarkable sisters. They're courageous, they're brave, and they go to work every single day, and they do it quietly, but they make a profound difference in the lives of the people in the communities that they serve. What I witnessed was literally a transformation. We watched these women who were strangers to each other. They were hesitant, they were curious, and they didn't know really what they were there to do. And we watched them transform and take ownership of their stories and discover the power and the beauty of their own voices. As the hours went by, they wrote and then rewrote their stories. And then they shared them in a trusting and safe space that we had created. And then something extraordinary happened. We listened, we could hear a pin drop in that room. We reflected, we hugged, we laughed, and we cried together. Their stories of courage and resilience and compassion remind us why Wisdom Calls really matters. The true impact of this project is sharing those powerful stories that deserve to be heard with the rest of the world, and sharing them with audiences that go far outside beyond the Catholic Church. I'm talking about the story of that young psychologist who walks to the mining towns of the Andes in Bolivia to accompany the widow and the young children of a 20-year-old miner called Jose. Jose left for work one morning, and he never came home. I learned through the tears of our sister that the life expectancy of a miner in a mining town in Bolivia is only 30 years old. Today, in the world today, young men either die crushed in the mines due to the awful working conditions, or they die of mal de mina, which is a mine illness, when their lungs collapse and they can't breathe anymore from the fumes that they breathe. Or also the story of the sister who rows in a makeshift boat along the river to a small incommunicated community. Access to that community is blocked by the guerrilla, and they're starving. They have no food and no money. And sister collects goods throughout the week and clothing for the families. Every week, she makes the trek at night to deliver the goods to the community. If she's found, she'll be killed on the spot. So she packs her little boat with her treasures and rows along the river, week after week. Or also the story of another sister who accompanies a group of mourning mothers whose children have disappeared without a trace at the hands of the narcos in Zapopan, Jalisco, in Mexico. They all gather at a safe house at 5 a.m. before sunrise.
A group of volunteers bring them a cup of coffee, and before they start another day of unimaginable uncertainty, they all pick up a shovel and they go to the place where they have received an anonymous tip that perhaps the body of their children will be there in a mass grave. And they dig to find them and bring them home. These are really the stories that we're talking about
Is the fact that when we as Catholics, we as Catholic professionals engage in media activity, we are not just telling stories. We are not just publicizing music. We are not just putting out the best photos. We are doing this knowing that we have an additional calling of bringing Christ and evangelizing the world through these things we do. And that is why I would like to approach the the topic of artificial intelligence by a very quick story. The story is told of a number of blind men who went to see, quote unquote, an elephant. The first one grabbed the elephant's leg and he said, "Oh, an elephant is like a tree, a huge tree trunk." The other one touched the elephant's stomach and he said, "Oh, an elephant is like a huge wall." Another one held the elephant's trunk and he said, "An elephant is like a huge trumpet." Yet another one touched the elephant's ear and he said, "An elephant is like a huge cocoyam leaf." Now, these were people that each gave their vision of what the elephant is. And as true as each of those descriptions was, it was not a complete description of the elephant. When we look at AI, we are confronted with almost the same dilemma, where it is developing so fast, it is upon us so quickly, that we tend to think AI is just one of the simple aspects of what it should really be in its totality. Permit me, brothers and sisters, to quickly give you a rundown of who we are and what we do. Our global mission field is very extensive, and I can say, I think from every country represented here, something about EWTN happens there in one way or the other. Our motto basically is, live truth, live Catholic. And this is not just a dictum, it is an invitation for us to live our faith not just by the beautiful words of our faith and the hymns and the scriptures, but also in the daily exemplification of our followership of Christ. And so when we set out in the things we do that I shall discuss very quickly soon, we set out to impact lives, to touch people. But we also set out not just to touch them like secular music does. We set out to touch them in a way that leads them to God. And that is why, in discussing AI in this distinguished assembly of Catholic media women and men, we must keep in mind that we are discussing how we can use AI in a sense to impact people's lives positively, but also to lead people to God. We are in television, news. Many of us know ACI Africa, based in Nairobi, Kenya. They are covering this event extensively. And Father Don Bosco, who is here, and his team are doing a marvelous job. We have digital, which is all sorts of publications we do online. We have print. The Catholic Register belongs to EWTN. And we have publishing. We publish quite a lot of books. All of these with the mission of leading people to Christ and impacting people's lives positively. If you want to just have a global view of what our mission is, we have 11 global TV channels. We are present in 160 countries and territories. We cover in excess of 440 million homes. We serve in 7 languages, including Arabic, and we are on all continents of the world. So we are truly a global Catholic network. But as we enter this conversation today, I would like us to open with the words from Magnificat Humanitas, which could not have come at a better time. Magnificat Humanitas enjoins us at the very beginning that we are people who are building for a common good and also trying to remain human. Let this be the guiding principle that informs this conversation that we are going to have as we begin to look at the opportunities and the threats that artificial intelligence brings to not only to us as Catholic media women and men, but also to our faith. I started off by the analogy of the elephant, and we are in the right place to talk about elephants because the largest population of elephants in the world is found, or one of the largest, because I think India might have even more. So no Indian should feel hurt by this comparison. Are found in Africa. And elephants are humongous creatures. They are beautiful to see. Millions of people come into Rwanda, Tanzania, Kenya, Cameroon to see elephants. But as beautiful as these creatures are, they can also be very damaging. If you see where elephants enter a farm, they trample all the crops underfoot, and that place just looks like a football field after they have gone through it. So today I would like us to look at this elephant. How can we embrace this huge, this humongous creature that people love to see? And how can we be careful so that we don't get trampled or crushed by the might and the sheer size of this creature? And to say this in another way, AI is all-embracing. If you are a journalist, there's AI that is involved in your exercise of your profession. If you're trying to cook something and you don't think you have the right recipe, you can get it from AI. If you think you are losing your way in a country you have never been to, AI can tell you where the nearest place you can find gas or a restaurant is. So AI is extremely all-embracing. And therefore, one of the places which cannot be excluded from the embrace of AI is our lives as a people of faith and as a people on their way to the heavenly kingdom. But before we go ahead, perhaps it might be also nice to carefully delimit what our understanding of AI ought to be as we hold this conversation. So AI in this conversation is going to represent the systems that simulate human intelligence through rapid processing and pattern recognition. When we spoke about the elephant that these blind men went to see, one said it was like a wall, the other said it was like a tree trunk, the other said it was like a trumpet. These are perspective views, and there's a danger in perspective views. So we as women and men of the media need to look at AI in as comprehensive a way as possible, so we are not locked in one vision or one viewpoint of AI. And one of the perspective views of AI basically just emphasizes its dangers. When you hear that a politician is shown on a photograph that is not good to see, the first question they ask, is this not AI? When somebody is said to have said something on a news clip that he did not say, we say that may be AI. But AI is both contains in itself aspects of goodness and aspects that threaten us as a people. Let's look at now the massive beauty of this elephant. Having recognized the dangers it brings, let us also look at the sheer beauty of this creature. And this is what should basically be of great interest to us today. How can we embrace AI in such a way that our work as Catholic communicators is more meaningful and more impactful? And we'll also discuss the looming danger of allowing this monster to go uncontrolled. Catholic media, like I said at the entrances, impacted seriously by AI. But as we discuss this, I would like us to look quickly at one quote from St. John Mary Vianney, whose feast day we celebrated 2 days ago, and who is one of my favorite saints. John Mary Vianney said, "Do not do anything which you cannot offer to God." This is very important as we approach AI technology. That question should be at the back of our minds as we choose, as we use, and as we engage with AI tools and resources. A few months ago, last June, EWTN Summer Academy that brings together young professional or young men and women from countries around the world to give them the basic media skills they need to be able to be part of the evangelization process, graduated its batch of 2026 students or interns from 25 countries. And I think there's one or two of them here today. Let's give them a hand, please. At this summer academy in Rome, our guest of honor was Archbishop Fortunatus Nwachukwu, and he gave this warning that I would like to share with you today. Artificial intelligence is one of the greatest technological developments of our time, and like every tool, it should be welcomed with wisdom and used responsibly. He said it so well, I can't say more than that. But let me go into a little bit of catechesis. Why did God make us? We are told in the Catechism, God made us to know Him, to love Him, and to serve Him here on earth, and to be happy with Him in the next. Which means that everything we do here, not only should be things that please God, there should be something that lead us to God ultimately. And that is where our challenge and our conversation begins to get interesting as we see our work not just as opportunities for earning bread and butter or for living a charism, but also as a means of our journey towards God in the beatific vision. But one of the things that AI does is that AI these days is a very perfect impersonator. Your picture can be changed into a dancing video. Your words can be put into a voice note that would never come out of your mouth, even on the pain of death. But AI does that perfectly. As we approach this impersonator, I would like to call our attention to some points we need to keep in mind. The human person needs to be kept inside AI, and we shall see why very soon. AI tools sometimes sound like sophistication that cannot be matched by human performance. In a sense, that is true, but we cannot let AI dictate to us. AI has to be a tool in our hands. AI can and should not be used in any way that diminishes human dignity. Let us never portray people in a light which is not truly theirs because we are slaves of AI. And as we use AI, we must remember that we are bound by ethical considerations and ethical boundaries that, if not properly employed, would lead to an abuse of AI and to the abuse of our professions. One of the groups in danger from AI use is the family. We must make sure our families and communities continue to be a collection of human beings living, loving, caring, and sharing for each other. And sharing with each other. Not just people who can be created, moved, adjusted, edited by AI tools. I would like us very quickly to look at just Beauty and the Beast. Beauty here are those good things that AI comes with, and I'll literally just summarily say, it gives us Catholic communications as a witness of truth. So we have AI can be a good opportunity for us to communicate the truth of our faith. There are many things that AI can do that we cannot humanly do. And there are many things that we can do, but which AI can do better. And these can be the kind of things we can use for our work. We can also use AI to enhance human collaboration, helping people to work better and more efficiently. We can use also AI to attain improved delivery of pastoral and ecclesial communion. A lot of the things we are going to say here today are going to be on the news tonight. And if we do not do that quickly, if we try to do that humanly speaking, we might not be able to do them efficiently. And I'll just jump quickly to the challenges. Loss of originality and critical thinking. If AI does it all, writes all your stories for you. The risk of substitution in liturgy and the sacramental celebrations. Community and human warmth is taken out. And Catholic communication as witnesses of truth, not just embellished platitudes. People can bring a special dimension to this that we cannot get if we just used AI alone. Well, but I would like to just jump quickly, since we are almost out of time, to tell you how we at EWTN are using AI, because I'm sure many people might be interested to know this. The first thing about our use of AI is that it is guided by a strict policy and by a strict code of conduct. The overriding or the underlying guideline for our use of AI is nothing can be done by AI from beginning to end. So if we had automated translation, a native speaker of that language would have to review and approve the text before it is released. So we have developed specific guidelines. We use it for translation automation. We use it for procurement. So if we're looking for technology we want to buy for a particular purpose, we try to figure out what is the best technology and which technology gives us the best adequation between efficiency and price. And we are actually considering use of AI in creating content. But this is a long way off from now, but not right away here. But I would like to just say, as we consider AI in our missions, in our work, overriding principle is keep the human person in AI. Number two, make sure that what you are using AI for and how you are using AI is one that God himself would approve. And number three, we should never forget that we are agents of evangelization, and AI tools can only be support in the work of evangelization we are supposed to do. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, George. Let's give George another round of applause. You reminded us that AI presents enormous opportunities, but also requires thoughtful discernment. Your African perspective challenged us to engage AI like the elephant in the room, intentionally, responsibly, and proactively, while recognizing both its potential and its challenges. Now, please join me in welcoming Father Anthony Leduc. Father Anthony is the Executive Director of the Asian Research Center for Religion and Social Communication at St. John's University in Thailand, and he is Assistant Professor of Moral Theology. His presentation today is titled, Co-Creating a Christian Digital Humanism in the Algorithmic Age. Please join me in welcoming Father Anthony Leduc.
Thank you, Pam, for that kind introduction. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies and participants. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts. I'm speaking today mainly as an academic and not a media practitioner, so I hope you will bear with me. During his April 2026 apostolic journey to Cameroon, Pope Leo challenged young people to become the pioneers of a new humanism within the digital revolution, and not to be afraid of new things. So indeed, we stand today at monumental crossroads, what Pope Leo calls a radical change of era. Now, for many years, many of us assumed that artificial intelligence was mainly a neutral tool. This conversation came up on the first day. But that isn't what Pope Leo and technology philosophers and ethicists are saying. AI isn't neutral. When it comes to AI, the traditional toolbox model no longer applies. A hammer is passive. It sits silently in a toolbox until you pick it up. But it doesn't monitor your habits. It doesn't study your choices or track your every move. It doesn't adapt to you to predict your next step or shape your behavior in real time. A hammer is strictly an instrument of human will. AI, on the other hand, is an environment that exerts its own active actions. Consequently, we're now living in what can be called a digitally mediated moral ecology, where human moral conscience is formed. Within this ecology, digital systems actively restructure how we direct our attention, determine the common horizon through which we perceive truth, reshape what we desire as good, and redefine how we belong to one another. And driven by a hyper-technocratic paradigm that pursues absolute profit, digital architectures are increasingly reducing the deep mystery of the human person to raw data and performance metrics. As Pope Leo noted in this year's Communications Day message, the ultimate challenge today isn't technical, but anthropological. Human beings are undergoing immense transformation as a result of the very machines we innovate. So there is co-evolution between humans and technology. Humans innovate technology, technologies cause human transformation, then transform humans, innovate more technology in an endless cycle. To be sure, secular frameworks like the Vienna Manifesto on Digital Humanism of 2019 rightly worry about digital technology's impact on human dignity and agency. Yet they remain constrained by an Enlightenment anthropology that views humans strictly as rational agents, largely ignoring our spiritual dimensions. By treating technology merely as a regulatory or technical issue, they miss how algorithms attempt to diminish our God-given agency. So to fill this gap, the Church calls for what I term Christian digital humanism. What is this paradigm? Essentially, it is a vision that affirms the transcendent dignity of the whole human person, both body and soul, bearing the image of the triune God, completely independent of data metrics or machine performance. This paradigm positions technology strictly as a means for human beings to live out our incarnate vocation as God's created co-creators. Consequently, technology must not be used for monopolistic manipulation or dehumanization, but must serve the common good empathy, solidarity, and authentic communion among human beings and with all creation. So in my presentation today, I would like to lay out the pillars of this Christian digital humanism and how Catholic communicators can participate in constructing and co-creating this humanism. To begin, any serious Christian engagement with technology must be anchored in the bedrock of theology and anthropology. I realize this isn't a theology conference. Without this compass, our responses to the digital revolution, however, become merely reactive or superficial. How we define what it means to be human dictates how we evaluate technological power. So let us examine this through three foundational mysteries of our faith. First, Christian anthropology defines the human person through the imago Dei, created in the image and likeness of God, endowed with reason, free will, and conscience. Bearing this image means sharing in God's nature as logos, or reasoned and ordered love, which yields three crucial consequences for our digital age. Number one is the presupposition of dignity. Dignity is a holistic gift of the Creator, not a status earned through social utility. Therefore, no AI system can ever reduce a human person to a mere tool. Number two is resistance to datafication. We must actively reject the fragmentation of human identity into behavioral data points. Pope Leo reminds us the human person is essentially mystery. Defending our physical face and voice is central to safeguarding the divine image. This is why I don't have a PowerPoint, by the way. I'm making you look at me. Number three, unconditional worth. Human value is completely independent of cognitive or mechanical efficiency. When efficiency becomes the supreme law, human beings are treated merely as resources to be optimized or discarded based on immediate utility. Moving on to our second foundational truth. By taking on human flesh, Christ elevated human nature to a sublime dignity. In our digital age, the incarnation provides a powerful threefold critique of the digital environment. First, it resists physical disembodiment. Christianity strongly opposes the digital abstraction of human presence, and it reaffirms the baseline goodness of the body and the sacramental nature of material existence. Secondly, it is a counterweight to transhumanism. Ideological movements championed by futurists in tech centers seek to upload consciousness, and it views the physical body as a glitchy mechanism to be overcome. Nowadays, when Donald Trump says something that is out of the ordinary, a lot of commentators say he glitches. And it's becoming a common word to describe when humans make mistakes in how they speak. Yet Pope Leo reminds us that human maturity and empathy are forged precisely through physical vulnerability. The incarnation vindicates the physical body, showing that vulnerability is the exact space where we learn empathy, build relationships, and mature. Thirdly, is the irreplaceability of incarnate communion. True relationality requires physical presence, a touch, a gaze, a face-to-face encounter. which can never be replaced by automated digital connectivity. Digital presence, while valuable in its own right, can never replace physical presence. And I surmise that's why we are having this Congress here in Rwanda and not online or on Zoom. Finally, we go to the third mystery. The ultimate depth of Christian digital humanism rests upon the Trinity, which reveals that relationality and self-giving belong to the very core of divine life. This vision reshapes our understanding of humanity in two distinct ways. First, it transforms our understanding of the person. The persona is not an isolated substance, but a metaphysical category defined by relationship and vocation. Authentic communion never dissolves individual, but preserves personal freedom. Secondly, it views the person as the imago trinitatis. To be human is to exist within a relational flow where the I is constituted by the we. Human fulfillment requires shared existence and mutual self-giving. From this Trinitarian framework, we derive two core criteria for evaluating digital spaces. On the one hand, we must resist technocratic reduction because the human being is, as Pope Leo stated, a desire, not an algorithm. True interpersonal intelligence requires subjective commitment and compassion that no machine can simulate. Today, LLMs imitate human language and empathy with astonishing accuracy, and they act as anonymous architects of our emotional states. But this deceptive anthropomorphism traps users in personalized mirror worlds, and it replaces complex real-world interactions with sterile chatbots, and it deprives us of authentic encounters and eroding our capacity for genuine community. On the other hand, we must focus on repositioning technological progress. Progress must not serve isolated corporate monopolies, but must act as collaborative effort with God to perfect the visible world toward the common good. Ultimately, digital interventions must foster real encounter, empathy, and solidarity rather than offering empty, simulated relationships. Now, turning to practical action, Christian digital humanism is an active project of reconstruction that translates theological foundations into structural accountability, public policy, and daily moral choices. From Pope Leo's Magnificat Humanitas, I draw 10 actionable pathways organized into 3 interconnected levels of engagement: the individual, the social, and the structural. Now, these are only examples. Starting at the personal level, first, we must reject absolute optimization. This involves rejecting the lie that every human can be reduced to data. Embracing our individual limitations and vulnerability defends the imago Dei, declaring that the person is a mystery to be loved, not a functional system to be optimized. Second, we need to practice digital temperance and take digital Sabbaths. This is about cultivating personal interior freedom through conscious technological moderation, intentionally preserving physical spaces for family meals, community service, and sickness conference talks, and physical presence reminds us that our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit. Third, we must actively cultivate AI literacy. Education must build critical resistance against the tendency to anthropomorphize machines. Empowering individuals to treat AI only in its functional capacity protects physical faces and voices from deepfakes and fraud, and directly defends the divine image. Moving next to the social level, to begin with, we must embrace the Nehemiah way of shared synodality. Rather than waiting for the top-down fixes, tech developers, scientists, policymakers, and believers must join hands as partner builders, each rebuilding their section of the wall to ensure digital networks actively serve the common good. Furthermore, we must weave networks of truth. The Pope challenges us to, quote, mend the nets of our digital highways. By disarming online speech and rejecting algorithmic outrage, content creators and users can reshape digital spaces into networks of genuine communion, empathy, and solidarity. In addition, we need to form a renewed educational alliance. This demands a social pact where policymakers, schools, and families and churches unite to legally hold platforms accountable while cultivating physical spaces of silence and slow learning to protect the interior life of the soul. Finally, turning to systemic changes and policy, MH gives the following suggestions. First, we must apply preventative ethical due diligence. Systemic and economic choices are inherently moral choices. Exercising ethical due diligence is an act of structural charity. Second, we must pursue technical and cognitive disarmament. That means structurally extracting AI from geopolitical conflicts and corporate monopolies. Third, we must establish absolute human boundaries for life and death decisions. This involves establishing strict policy boundaries that refuse to outsource human conscience to algorithms. Finally, we must adopt multidimensional metrics of flourishing. Pope Leo calls for shifting systemic frameworks to look beyond GDP and processing speeds, designing structural metrics that explicitly evaluate how automation impacts the dignity of human labor, structural inequality, and family well-being. Now, in conclusion, to translate this broad division into concrete practice within Catholic social media, there are many things that we can do, but I would like to offer two very general suggestions. First, professional Catholic communicators must have a thorough grasp of the building plan for Christian digital humanism, comprising the theological, anthropological, and social teachings of the Church. Before rushing to adopt the latest platforms or master new software, Catholic media practitioners must be far more keen on deepening our understanding of the Church's vision than on merely upgrading our digital gadgets. This rich transcendent outlook provides the essential moral compass needed to evaluate technological power, ensures that our media work consistently upholds human dignity, spiritual depth, and the mystery of the person above raw data or engagement metrics. Secondly, following the way of Nehemiah, Catholic communicators should prayerfully choose our specific section of the wall and commit to building it in accordance with our expertise and interests. Promoting Christian digital humanism is not a burden for any single communicator, media outlet, or institution to carry alone. In the spirit of shared synodality, every journalist, editor, producer, and digital specialist must discern where we can serve most effectively. For some, this work might mean the practice of disarming words and rejecting algorithmic outrage. For others, it might mean mending the nets of digital communication or creating spaces of authentic encounter and communion in digital spaces. For others, it might be speaking prophetically against new forms of digital colonialism. Whatever our specific domain, be faithfully dedicated to building our section of the wall. In the end, the human person is always vastly greater than the largest data set. And as machines mimic human behavior, with increasing perfection, Catholic communicators are called to help our audiences tune out the noise of glowing screens and reconnect with what I call Deo rhythm, God's algorithm of grace. By building on an ecosystem of compassion through our collective work, we can transform technical network into spaces of authentic incarnate encounter and fulfill the ultimate call of our era, to the courage to remain authentically human. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Anthony, for reminding us that human dignity must remain at the center of technological development, and for challenging us to cultivate virtue and authentic relationships in the digital age. Now, please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Dr. Mariana Grbesa. Professor Grbesa of the University of Zagreb teaches media, strategic communication, and research methods, and serves as Vice Chair of the Council of Europe's Committee of Experts on Online Safety and Empowerment of Content Creators and Users. Her presentation today is Seeing is Not Believing: News and Information Authorities in the Age of AI.
Yes. Okay, let me set this up very quickly. Yes, this is me. Thank you. I'm all equipped. Thank you. So it's a great privilege to be here today with you and to share some of our communications scholarship, which is very important for church and has huge implications for church. So I'm very glad to be here with you and to listen to you. And you'll have to listen to me for the next 15 minutes. So this book, and I'm going to start with this book, is one of the most iconic books in media studies, a book I was educated and raised on, basically almost also as a child, as a student, and as a scholar. And this book basically says, the idea of this book is that seeing is believing, that television has huge impact on how we perceive the world around us, and that manipulating images, visual, we can actually very much influence how people perceive the world around them. So basically, the main idea is seeing is believing, because people trust their own eyes. So today in my presentation, I'm going to show you how this idea has changed dramatically, and I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to base most of my talking today on one of maybe the only big comparative research in digital communication, which is being conducted in almost 50 countries in the world. So we can compare. The trends are here, but there are also differences between different countries, different culture, different contexts. That's Reuters and Oxford Institute Digital News Report, which, as you can see here in this graph, shows that social and search engines have become the main source of news if we look at majority of the countries involved in this research. It also shows that in the last 5 years here, there's decline in consumption of television, which has been for many years and still is in many countries the main source of news, okay? Of course, huge decline in print, in other media. So social has been taking over. As there are differences, and I'll show them in countries, there are also, as you can assume, and you've witnessed that, in your own communities between generations, okay? So the first blue line shows the youngest population, so Gen Z. Gen Zers are overwhelmingly relying on social when they consume not information, but news, okay? And when they consume news, the format that they usually rely on is short videos, okay? And the green stack, the bottom stack, is 55 plus. So this is people who still overwhelmingly rely on television. But generally, the trend that is overwhelmingly, as you can see also in the orange generation, that's the young generations up to 35, towards social and towards short video. This is just an example because I, of course, cannot show all the countries represented here. So if you want to know more about your country, you are very welcome to approach me outside and I can maybe tell you something about your country. This is an example of Europe. As you can see, television is still quite prominent in Europe as the main source of news, except in some countries. Again, trend is that social is going to override television, but it has not happened yet in many countries. This is Africa. Radio is still very important in many African countries, as is television, okay? So this is like the general trend. One general trend, so we are shifting towards social. The second very important trend is, what about the news? So being flooded with all this different content and information, where does the news stand? In a traditional sense of public affairs, understood as the news. So there is a huge trend of declining interest in news. You can see how the lines here for different countries, how the interest has been declining, even in some countries, such as Scandinavian countries in Europe, which are traditionally very much involved in news, okay? And this trend is being accompanied by something which is very important, and that's the concept of so-called news avoidance. So people are increasingly likely to actively avoid news, meaning when you come across news, you scroll over or you switch channel and watch football, okay? So my country, small country, big in football, is unfortunately champion in news avoidance for its own reasons. And here are, from last year, some other countries you're going to, maybe you won't be able to see all the way here, but Bulgaria, Turkey, Croatia, Greece, India, Kenya, Romania are among the countries which are topping the news avoidance charts for different reasons. So, of course, we ask ourselves, why do people avoid news? Because we don't feel good. They make us anxious. News are negative. So many wars, so many bad news. But even when there is no bad news, what do media do trying to capture our attention in attention economy? They frame news as conflict, as sensations, and even that when the news isn't that bad, you could find a positive angle. They are increasingly trying to find negative angle. Why? Because sex and blood sells. Okay? So it makes people anxious. And people have options today. They can just go online and watch what's in their feed. Might be just music, just sports, something that's very relaxing. Then there is too much focus on one topic. In COVID, this was very prominent because it was all about COVID, okay? Now it's all about wars. We have too many wars, of course. And then there is bias in certain countries. In the United States, bias, for instance, one of the main reasons why people tend to avoid news. And then low professional standards. The rise of digital has led to deprofessionalization of traditional professional journalistic media. Why? Because they are trying to keep up with the internet. And that's impossible. You cannot compete with trash, right? And there's so much trash on the internet. And unfortunately, many media are trying to catch our attention by downplaying the quality and keeping up with the imperative of speed and quantity, okay? And then there is generally disengagement. In many countries, people are just disengaged. They don't vote, they don't care about things, and that's also one of the reasons. All these trends are especially prominent among young. Young people care less and less about news. They trust news less and less, okay? And they tend to avoid news less and less. So Again, one number which speaks in favor of the primacy of social is this one, which basically when young people were asked, if you get your news online, where do you get it from? And you can see that majority, this orange stack, get it from social. What does it mean? They don't go to an online news site. They get it in their feed. What does it mean? They get it filtered by algorithm, which means that their social realities are heavily constructed by the filter bubble they live in, okay? And that's our future. So we are going to have future with zillion of algorithm generated realities, okay? And this is short videos. You can see here basically that Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are the main platforms where young get their information. So the question arises, who do they get it from? Who's the authorities get it from? Is it journalists? No. You can, I guess, you can guess. It's influencers, right? So they increasingly, they are like the very, they are the icons of Gen Z's world, okay? And there is now increasingly more talk about a specific kind of influencers, so-called news influencers or newsfluencers, who also go by the name journalistic YouTubers, journal influencers, creator journalists, etc., who basically are influencers but for news, who are not bound by journalistic standards, who are not bound by institutions, but that's exactly why they are attractive. Their news is very personalized, very authentic. That's one of the buzzwords today, authenticity. And they are very capable of reaching out to young, but also to other people. And I must say that in some countries, this is a very positive trend, especially when you have, like in our neighboring Serbia, where freedom of speech is not very, of media is not very common. But at the same time, so I want to show you here, so these are influencers who are famous in Europe from Africa. So please fill me in with other names that are your reference point, maybe. So this trend of influencers being the source of news is the most pronounced in 3 regions: Africa, Latin America, and United States, okay? Also some Asian countries, but these are like regions where, as you can see, majority of news for many people is not coming from traditional journalistic institutions, but from newsfluencers, okay? So it's a very prominent trend. At the same time, people get their news from newsfluencers and influencers, but they also think that they are not totally trustful, okay? So if we look here, then we are going to see that in these regions, in this order, people are concerned with the news they get online. So it's, again, these three regions. It's Africa, it's US and Canada here, and Latin America, okay? And you can see in the right chart that people, for instance, in Kenya and Nigeria perceive online influencers at the same time as the biggest threat to integrity of information, meaning the biggest disinformation spreaders. Okay, so there's a bit of paradox there, but this is what it is. Okay, so what does it mean? What does it mean? This is Emily Hart. I don't know if you know about Emily Hart. She's a nurse. She's a very popular influencer. See, she's a very popular influencer among especially certain groups in the United States, MAGA voters, etc., etc. And Emily's biggest problem is not that she's MAGA, but her biggest problem is that she's AI. She doesn't exist. And she's super, super popular. She's the creation of an Indian student of medicine who needed money for his studies. So what did he do? He asked artificial intelligence to suggest him an influencer that can very quickly gain much of the following. And AI suggested you should create MAGA influencer. That's what he did. And then he was deconstructed by the media. They debunked this projection. And Emily, which had many people following her. It's huge. So fake AI influencers is huge. A few days ago, New York Times, and it's very dangerous, obviously. So the New York Times published a great feature about health and wellness AI influencers. And they found out that there is a slop of influencers who don't exist and who sell health. So people buy different supplements, and there were more than few cases of poisoning because people were buying these things. So none of these people is real. So back in 2016, communication scholars coined this term, disinformation order, trying to address everything that was happening with the elections in the United States, Brexit, COVID, and then later Ukraine and other unfortunate wars. So what they were saying at that point is that people who try to lie online, who try to persuade you in their own truth by lying, are actually trying to do something else, which is much more dangerous. They are trying to create a world in which people will say, you cannot trust anyone. That was like, back in 10 years ago, that was like the worst projection. That was something they said, this is going to happen if this continues. We are there already. We are at exactly that point already. These are just examples of altered, of course, images of Zelensky, of Italian Prime Minister Meloni, and as other speakers have shown, Mrs. Golekar has spoke about that, church is being affected by this slop as well. There are many, many images and videos, doctored videos of Pope being debunked by big fact checkers continuously, but it's almost impossible. And the problem is that technology is progressing and is becoming so sophisticated. I don't want to take up time, so I won't be showing videos, but this is Will Smith, famous Hollywood actor, eating spaghetti. So this was one of the first videos, basically, which was totally distorted, and it was like obviously AI. And it was in 2023. Now, it's very difficult to recognize that something has been altered. This was a slop, for instance, of a number of very sophisticated videos about Nicolas Maduro and Didi in jail, which was trending among young, like heavily trending. And this is, for instance, something I did in 2 minutes with a basic subscription. So count on billions of videos and images that are very, very to debunk. And then, of course, there is the strategy, political strategy. This is the White House official Instagram page. It's not any kind of mimetic web page. This is what White House now does all the time. So they do this with AI, and this is how they communicate, okay? So it's their mimetic communication backed by the use of AI. But when US administration is doing it, of course, the enemies are doing it as well. This is what Iran was doing and has been doing when the war started. There's a number of AI-created Lego videos which are being created to talk to the American public. So the possibilities of strategic political use are immense. Another very interesting development is AI politicians. And there is a field of research called synthetic politics. And this lady here is Albanian minister. She doesn't exist. So she's Diela, and it's an Albanian minister. She's an AI. So AI slop is everywhere. And of course, also in the field of religion and Catholic Church. This is only one example of a very pervasive trend online. It's called AI Bible. And it's basically the use of AI, which tries to generate images from the Bible using AI. And it looks this very kitschy, something between Marvel movies, video game, and fantasy art. And there is big debate on the internet, and that's something I leave to you to think about, whether this is blasphemy or a great tool to attract and educate young people about faith. And I'm going to finish with two most recent quotes and examples. The first one is a few days ago. Google has introduced option with their app Nano Banana on Google Earth, that you can go to Google Earth and, for instance, import and place pyramids in Kigali, okay, on Google Earth. They thought it was funny, or I'm not sure. However, within hours, there were millions, literally, of images, of altered Google Earth images of different military objects in Iran, in Ukraine, in Russia, being spread around to manipulate the enemy. So the next day, they took it off, okay? But these are the things that we are going to be facing increasingly. So finally, I'm going to finish with the words of the CEO of Instagram, who said that AI is a great thing because it's easy to replicate authenticity. So let's contemplate about that. What does it mean to replicate authenticity? And another thing he said is that it's going to be easier to flag real content on platforms on the internet than fake content, okay? So reality, reliable, trustful images and information are going to become, in his own words, an incident, which will be flagged as something odd, and the rest will be AI slop, okay? And I'm going to finish going back to my initial book, Seeing is Believing. So we have two possible interpretations here. It's either that seeing is believing, and the capacity of AI to manipulate the visuals means that the capacity to manipulate our reality has now amplified times zillion. Or that now people will just won't be able to see anything, to believe anything they see, and they are going to question every single visual they see online. They won't be able to trust their own eyes, so seeing is not believing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Gerbesa, for highlighting how AI and the rise of digital is reshaping journalism and the global information ecosystem, while reminding us that credibility, thank you, trust, and media literacy are more important than ever. So please, let's give another round of applause to our three wonderful speakers. Thank you to all three of you. Today's presentations reminded us that AI offers tremendous opportunities for communication, education, evangelization, while also raising profound questions about ethics and truth, dignity and trust. As communicators, we're called not only to understand AI, but to ensure that it serves people, promotes truth, strengthens human relationships, and reflects the values of the gospel. And with that, I would love to invite questions and comments from the general audience for our three speakers. Please remain where you are, and a microphone will be brought to you. I think we have someone over here on the second row on the right side.
At the outset, I would like to congratulate all the presenters for stimulating our intellects. Absolutely fantastic. Right from elephant metaphor and 10 points of Dr. Diluk and the mainstream media are losing their grounds. Right? And the social media will reign the future. These points are absolutely excellent. My point is, Malaysian theologian, Dr. Sherman, he's a director of Cardinal Sin Institute. He says, if AI succeeds in this project, for young people, AI will become God. So that means young people will have two gods. To which God young people will go? And also the caution is AI is not neutral, it's biased. So what will happen to the young people? And AI cannot think, AI cannot feel, and AI does not know what is right and what is wrong. And my another question is, young people are immersed in AI. I did my PhD in anthropology and communication. I studied for 6 full years in one of the oldest universities in the world. But today, AI completes the entire thesis within 2 hours. With citation, with references, with case studies. 2 hours is enough for you to finish your PhD. And young people are trained right from the high school to do the project, to do the homework, to do the mathematics, everything. So, since young people are completely immersed in AI, how to redeem them? Okay, how to make them discriminative users of AI? It's a very challenge. I am a media educator. We do media literacy. You have given us what to do, but the real question is how to do. How to engage with young people, how to change their mindset, how to change their attitude. We expect some creative methodologies, ways, means, methods from you speakers. Yeah? Thank you very much for your wonderful presentations.
Thank you, Maggie. Would anybody like to respond or comment on Maggie?
Well, I think one of the main points that was emphasized was to make sure the human element is kept in our use of AI. And I think in my presentation, I specifically mentioned the role that the family and communities must play. Our homes cannot be a place where people use their cell phones at table. Our homes cannot be a place where there's a television in every room and a television and a phone in everyone's hands. If we want our young people not to be swept away by AI, we must keep the human element, the personal connection, which is in being threatened with replacement. So it means we cannot afford to have, I know homes where there's one computer and the computer is in the kitchen where everyone eats. When we come into the living room, people should talk to each other. So I think that is one aspect. The second aspect is in training young people are receptive to what is good and what is true. So we need to tell young people the dangers there is in AI or in abuse of technology beyond AI. Because you may be using cell phones for other things, but we must teach our young people their lives can be improved by AI, but their lives can also be damaged by AI. I think that is my perspective on this.
Thank you very much. Father Tony.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. I think in my presentation, I mentioned this epistemic confusion when we apply human terminology to machines, such as Machines can learn, that is thinking, that it can empathize, that it's a companion. And these are terms that we often apply to machines, why in fact they should only be reserved for human beings. On the other hand, we apply terms that normally are used for machines to speak about ourselves, such as glitching, such as optimizing, such as recharging, resetting. So we're creating epistemic confusion for ourselves and for the young people about what is the boundary and the difference between human beings and machines. I think there is an analogical issue in terms of technology and God. So nowadays we find that there is a trend in sort of divinizing technology while technologizing the divine. What I mean is this: we invest a lot of trust and power and into machines, into technology. And to the point that we are making technology, we're using technology in order to represent God. We have AI Jesus. In South Korea recently, there is an AI Buddhist monk who can provide answers, right? So now we are somehow making God and religious symbols as technology. And I think this also causes spiritual and epistemic confusion. So I think this is where we need to address these very core issues. And a lot of the confusion that's happening with the young people are because we are not clear in our parameters.
Thank you, Father Tony. For the sake of time, I am told that we can take 2 or 3 more questions. If I can ask you to please be short and straightforward with your question for our panel. And then afterwards, if our panelists are around and you want to speak to them one-on-one, feel free to do that as well, please. Sister in the back, her hand is raised. Please, in the middle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our presenters. One thing I'm asking myself, why is AI an issue? And what is coming to me is that we are silent. The world is silent. Our socialization is not going on well. In terms of what we do, it's becoming so silent. And the world will take it. AI will come out. They will take charge of what the bishops are doing. It will take charge of what the sisters are doing. And even the stories that we are supposed to tell, they will tell it for us. So, and I think since morning, this is what we have been talking about. Let us tell our stories. Let's try to counter AI in the best way possible. Otherwise, we'll be complaining, but AI will exist. They will create a God for us. But what God are we talking about? That is my contribution. Thank you.
Would anyone like to respond to Sister?
Can we take all 3 questions?
Pardon me?
Let's take all the questions and they can respond.
Oh, take all the questions first? Okay. Please, in the very back. I see a hand. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Father Peter Onyeno from Nigeria. The issue of AI has become so pertinent that unless we deal with it, it will deal with us. It's already dealing with us. An example is what I call over-reliance on AI. Usually, if someone has issues, maybe in a relationship or in a marriage relationship or personal relationship, what I know is that you usually go to someone to speak to the person, especially someone within the same circle. For instance, as a Catholic priest, if I have misunderstanding with a fellow priest, I'll meet another priest who understands the world view of the priesthood and explain the story. But now you have situations where people have issues, they go to AI. Someone said, I am stupid. What does it imply? And AI gives interpretation without knowing the circumstance surrounding that statement, whether it was made with a smile, whether it was made with a frown face, or whether there was something prior to that. So I think this issue of AI is something that we need to, as a group, tackle effectively. If not, the idea of personal relationship is going down the drain. And more persons are beginning to have faith in AI than a human person. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. And one last question. Right here, please, on the left, Father, on the blue shirt, right here. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to thank you once more for the good presentations. I followed keenly all that you have said, and that is important for us at this critical moment. I'm just wondering, what we are doing now is, of course, to make us aware of all this, the beauty and the challenges. At a higher level, as you have this knowledge that you have passed, are we going to remain on the defense system to defend ourselves or our population, or there are things done at a higher level as influencers, intellectual influencers, also to know and to work with the people behind the algorithms that are working in the AI? Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
So, I thank you for all your comments and contributions. So I hope we can continue that outside. But I just wanted to say that it's wonderful that Church has not stayed silent, and that Pope's encyclical is probably the most relevant document on AI currently existing in the world. And every single institution that has some authority to do something about AI has referenced Pope's encyclical. So this is something, so it's a great breakthrough on behalf of the Church, and I'm very grateful for that, and this is exactly the path forward. So this is one thing that that's amazing, that the Church did for the world. So that's one thing. Second thing, we talk a lot about young people, and thank you, gentlemen, for the question about how. But there's also older people who are very much entangled in this web of AI, not actually knowing. Kids, actually, they think they can easily recognize AI than real content. That's the problem for children, and that's what's going to be the problem in the future. And in our session this afternoon, we are going to talk about exactly that. So if you are interested to hear a little bit more about that, you can join us in the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Would anybody else have a closing remark? Anything else they'd like to add before we wrap up the session? We're all good? Okay, please join me with a big round of applause for this amazing panel. Thank you to the three of you. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Shall we please clap for them again? Before we take a couple of announcements and the closing prayer, we have a short message from one of our partners, Kurat Africa, and so I invite Dr. John Makoha to come and do this for us. Very brief one. Dr. John Makoha, thank you. Shall we welcome him?
Thank you very much, the organizers. Give my thanks to Sister Adelaide and Virginia. Thank you very much for organizing for us to come. So my name, as you've heard, I'm Dr. John Makoha. I'm coming from Kurat Africa in Kenya. And just wanted to enlighten, Kurat Africa is an ecumenical institution in Kenya. So we serve all churches. And we deliver trainings, we do consultancy, and also research. On the area of training, we train church leaders and faith-based organization leaders on governance, leadership, and management. And we have a stand across here. If you would like to register to train with us, we invite you to do that. We are having a major training that is coming in October. We call it Senior Church. And this is specific for clergy, the bishops, the leaders in the church. And we take you through all those three areas: management, leadership, and governance. On consultancy, we work with the church and FBOs to help them develop strategic plans, to develop policies, to do project evaluations, to do baseline studies, and to do job evaluation across. And we can tailor the consultancy according to your needs. We also would invite you to reach us, and we can organize that. On research, we do research on contemporary issues that affect the church. Recently, we did a study in Kenya focusing on the proposed regulation laws that are going to affect the church. And we were able to come up with views from the grassroots that we presented to the relevant authorities, and we are happy that they listened to us. So thank you very much. I wanted just to say that Corat Africa is very grateful to the organizers of this conference, and that we have been given an opportunity to interact with all of you, and we ask that you may reach out to us for further issues of concern and how we can support the church and the body of Christ. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. John Makua of Corat Africa. After lunch, we'll be having a breakout session. There will be 5 panels. The first one have to do with the wisdom calls, bringing the mission to the world, connecting secular media with religious sisters in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and the Caribbean. That will take place in this hall. It will take place in this hall. The second panel, Voices of Today and Tomorrow, Youth in Digital Space, will take place in the small room, the A identified room by the poolside at the Hotel Saint Famille. And the third group, AI in Contemporary Media Environment, will be in the second room, room B, the same place, just by the poolside at the Saint Famille Hotel. The fourth group, Digital Media Literacy, will be on the top here, room 1003, the second level of this building. So please, that is where those who will be presenting on digital media literacy will be. And our last group, Digital Communication for Communion and Harmony, will take place opposite the St. Paul Chapel at St. Paul Center. So please, let's take note of these venues. One of us conference bag is missing. 2 unique things are in this bag, so you notice that it is not for you. The case of his glasses and his diary. So please, if you have found a bag that the case of the person's glass and his diary in it, and that is not for you, you can kindly bring it to me so that I'll give it to the owner. I also have a pin or a hook here with the letters YSL. The owner is missing. So if you're the owner, you can see me for this. The owner is missing, so please see me. And we would have seen this being shared with us. This is for our evaluation, so please scan the QR code and give your review from our hosts. May I now invite Sister Nkayula to lead us with the closing prayer. Shall we please rise for the closing prayer? These breakout sessions will end at 5 p.m. and we are expected to go and get ready for our gala night at 7 p.m. So please take note, especially those who will be moderating these sessions.
Let us pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God our Father, you are the source of all goodness. We thank you for the countless gifts you have given each of us present here. As we each put our talents at the service of the church, it is our prayer that you give us the grace to embrace the attitude of the poor widow in Mark 12:41-44, who put everything she had in the temple treasury. We ask that we focus our minds and hearts in making you known and loved, and on making the world better, particularly for our brothers and sisters in context of vulnerability, and remember in a very special way the 50 million victims of human trafficking and modern slavery, and those displaced by climate change effects, and all whose hearts are not at peace. And for the food prepared for us, we pray, bless us, O Lord, and these your gifts, which are about to receive from your goodness, through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Sister Kayula. So, we are grateful for your cooperation, for your participation. Have a good lunch, and let's meet at our breakout sessions.
What time do we meet for the breakout session?
The breakout session